guys, so I've got Wellington here, and he's just going to tell us a bit about himself and what he does and how that all ties into the topic we're talking about today.
Hi everyone. So I've been in telecoms industry for about 20 plus years, starting off in the management consulting industry, mostly with telecoms clients. And then I moved to work. I've worked for 3 different telcos, including a Nigerian telco, and obviously 3 of the top 4 South African telcos. And in my role, I've met many different people from different parts of the world, mostly from South Africa, of course, and from the continent, but also from overseas. Hence, obviously, my interest in this topic.
All right, cool. We'll just jump into the questions so we don't waste any more time. So the first question is: so what are these business relationships or connections in definition, so we're all on the same page and we all know what we're talking about?
From my perspective, I think a business relationship is any interaction that you have with someone in your place of work or in your business that goes beyond the transactional relationship. So if, for example, I'm a supplier and the supplier is coming to deploy a software package, if the supplier comes and deploys the software package and leaves, there is no relationship. They invoice, they go. But if beyond that you start talking about certain things that I can improve in my business, and then from a personal, it's a personal connection within a business context. For me, that's a business relationship. And those can be close connections and can end up being even friendships, but it must be a personal connection within a business context.
Okay, that makes sense. And how important are these business relationships? Like for us who are starting out in corporate, or we've been in corporate for 2, 3, 4 years, how important is it for me to start building those relationships and nurturing them as I grow?
You know, the interesting thing about me is that when I started building relationships, I didn't actually realize I was building relationships. I think the first thing is you have to be authentic, because I can tell you that if people like you, if you've got integrity, and if you're genuine in your interactions towards people, the business relationships often develop by themselves. You become a person of integrity, you become a sounding board, you become someone that people are comfortable around. So as long as people trust you, and as long as people trust that you say what you do and do what you say, the relationships just develop by themselves. So for me, that's how my relationship started. There is no formula that says you apply to have a relationship, or there is no leveling that says I'm only going to have business relationships with people at my level if I'm a manager, or if I'm a specialist, or people in my own company. Or it could be anyone from a supplier, it could be someone from a partner company, it could be someone from your team, or someone from within your organization. So there's no hard and fast rule that says relationships must be had with. Usually mutual benefit is what drives the business relationship.
Okay. And would you say it's very important for us to build those relationships, or can we just almost live without them until much later in life?
Very often in life, if you're doing anything that requires performance, anything where you're competing with others, which most of us in our companies are, or you might even be competing for a job, you might be competing for a business deal if you're running your own business, it's a game of fine margins. And sometimes what gets you over the line is a helping hand from someone. And this helping hand does not have to be an unfair helping hand. It just has to be a helping hand. So yes, I do think business relationships, I think there are certain things you have to do for yourself. But I think a business relationships, they can open the door for you, certainly. They can give you access to information that you'd never have had, or it would have taken you 10 times more to get access to that information, yet your business needs it right now. So I can think of 100 things that you'd benefit from business relationships, and not everyone needs the same things. So I just think that where you need help, you have much more than your formal circle to get help from. So that's what I think. Then you can't always go to your manager, you can't always go to your teammates. Sometimes you need to go beyond that to get advice, or to get access to, say, as a client, or to get access to a certain body of knowledge, or things like that.
It's an extra hand of help that is always ready and willing to help you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, and then since we're talking about benefits and how that can contribute to your growth, can you tell us some of the benefits or the outcomes that have happened through these business connections that you've had over the years?
I think it's important maybe to just state one or a few examples of the business relationship that I've had. I think most of my ex-bosses, I have a fantastic relationship with them. I can go and have a beer with them. I can go and have a coffee with them. They are literally friends of mine. Even though we still meet in a business context, but actually we can have a beer and talk about everything in life. So that's really important in a business relationship, to be able to get to that level. I've also got relationships with some people that are remote, so I don't necessarily see them often when I visit their countries, or they visit South Africa, they come and see me. So some people that are overseas, or some people that are on the continent, and I met them in the business context. Either we work together, or they were my customer, or vice versa. For me, the benefits that I think I'll mention maybe three. So the first benefit that I've received is, for example, just being referred for a job, where, because this person knows me, has worked with me in very close contact, you literally go to someone who's looking for my skills and say, I know the guy, I know exactly the person that fits exactly what you're looking for. So I had a scenario like that where definitely, that happened, and that was a benefit. Interestingly enough, it's not a role that I agreed to take, but it was there. If I wanted it. The other benefits, quite interestingly, it doesn't always accrue to yourself. Very often your business network can help those that are around you. So a lot of the times when other people close to me are looking, we have a very good proposition, are looking to get in, very often, especially if you're a smaller organization, you're trying to get into the organization, no one wants to give you an ear, no one wants to listen. And just because I have a relationship, it's not even in my company, just because I have a relationship with this executive in this organization, I was able to get that company to go and pitch. And for me, that's really important, and that the benefits from your network are not one-sided, and are not only to benefit yourself. The third thing that I would say is just career advice. I think from my network, I've had my senior people that I've met in my network being mentors, informal mentors to me. And a lot of what I know now in my career has just come from my network, has come from people that will give me the time of day when I'm struggling with something, when I need some advice, and they basically tell me, and oftentimes the biggest lessons I learn is from their mistakes. So if I can summarize, it's you can get referred for a role. That's what I've experienced. You can refer other people either for a job or for a business opportunity, and you can get mentorship. You can learn a lot from your relationships. Those are the three top things in my view that I've learned and that I've benefited from my relationships.
Okay, so you mentioned that one of the outcomes or the benefits is that a few of them become your mentors, or informal mentors, really. So I think the confusion that we sometimes, by we I mean young people starting out in the corporate world, we sometimes get confused by the word mentor, or the role of a mentor, and the role of a business connection or business relationship. So what are some of the differences? And like you said, a business connection can be your mentor. So then if I have those business connections, do I then need to go out and look for like 2 more mentors, or will those serve as my mentors?
It's a very good question. I think one very distinct thing about a mentor is a mentor has to be in your field of work.
Okay.
It's very difficult if you are a scientist to have a mentor who is a psychologist, because in your field of work, they've not gone through the corporate ladder, if you like, the same way as you would. But if you are in psychology, you need to have someone in that field as your mentor. So a mentor is someone that is in your field, so it's very specific. Often the mentor is either in your organization or someone that you have worked with before. and that's someone that can have some very live information about how you perform, how you've performed, what situations are you facing right now. Whereas a business connection could be someone from finance having a business connection with someone from HR, just because they work together and they have a business connection, which means even if one of them leaves the company, the connection remains. Or it could be a business connection from someone from a bank and someone from a textiles company. Those connections can happen. You meet at a conference and you connect, you talk about the same things, same interest. So I think the distinction I would make between a mentor and a business connection is a business connection, there's no limit to who can be a business connection. You just need to have the right conversation. But a mentor has to be somebody that can add value, more senior than you, definitely, and someone that's in your industry, that has walked the path that you're walking, so that they can actually help you to say, hey, you know what, this thing showed me flames, and therefore this is how you do it. And someone that's going to tell you that, hey, it's okay to fail. We all messed up something in our careers. And so I think that's the key difference.
Okay, so now we've established that we need to build these business connections. Okay, guys, how do we proceed? I think for me would be the next question. How do I approach someone? I know you mentioned that it happens organically, but for me, for example, at work now, I see there are a few people that I see that are excellent at what they do, and I'd like to sort of build some sort of relationship with those people. So now how do I approach them? Like, what do I say?
Well, I think fortunately in business in business relationship, it's slightly different to popping the question, because what I mean by it happens organically is that it's something sometimes as simple as, okay, that person that is very skilled that you could learn from. It's as simple as asking them for a coffee, and then you go straight. You need to be very open and authentic and candid about what you need from them. And obviously, if there is something that you think maybe they might be interested in that you have to share with them, I think you can be open about that as well, because the best business relationships are mutually beneficial. But oftentimes it's an interlocking network of debt, if you like, where the person that you do something for does something for the next one, who does something for the next one. So it's a web of helping each other. Doesn't necessarily mean that person you want to have a connection with, you have to give them something back. But you may give somebody else back who hasn't asked for, who hasn't helped you. So how you start, in my view, is I think by just being, you must be clear. If you're clear in your mind that you want to engage with this person, these days it's much easier than, you don't have to book a meeting in the calendar even. Some people, some senior people, you may have to book a meeting, but it's just as simple as, can we grab a coffee? And you grab a coffee, and that's it, and then you have the discussion. That's the simple thing. Or it could be just after a meeting and you say, listen, that thing that you spoke about in the meeting, I'm really interested, can we have a chat about it? And then some people, if they have the time, they will give you the time of day. And quite frankly, there are some people that aren't good at sharing and will not share with you, and for me, you should not be deterred. You must know some people in the corporate will not want to network. Some people just want to keep to themselves. But the majority of people that I know in the corporate, I think, would be actually willing to engage on something that they're good at, to engage someone and pass on the knowledge.
So should we focus on, because this is what what makes a lot of young people a bit nervous, is approaching people that are much like managers and C-suite type of people. So do you start with your peers? Do you start where you are, and eventually, as you build your confidence in having these chats and opening up to people and letting them know what you need and how you'd like to be helped? Or you can just like sort of have like two that are top managers and like two peers, can you mix and match? Or maybe start here and then nurture the ones that you have on your level and grow with the ones you have on your level, and as you grow older you can start adding on with the levels as you grow older?
I think it's a very good question again. I would say naturally, yes, you would start where you are, because for me, if you can't have genuine relationships with the people you work with on a day-to-day basis, what are the chances you're going to have good relationships with Exco, with senior people from other organizations. So you naturally must be a good person to network with. Because very often there are certain traits that you have. Are you a good listener, or do you just want to talk and get out what you want? Over and above what the other person wants. And senior people are much more experienced at picking that up, because as you can imagine, if you are a CEO of a company or an executive, there are different types of people. Some people want genuine business relationships. Some people are just sucking up because they want a promotion or they want an increase. And they're very quick to pick that up, senior people. However, the good news about a senior leader or an executive in 2020, I would expect them to be a lot more open. I would expect them to be hungry to speak to young people. And you see that a lot. You see on LinkedIn a lot of top CEOs sharing their thoughts, wanting to hear feedback from young people. So they're just as excited oftentimes to talk to you. That's the most important message I can give young people. Senior people are just as excited to talk to you as you are to talk to them. It's just that we've always grown up with this aura of thinking, you know, they're wearing suits most of the time, and they're very senior, so stay away. That's the era of people, of the CEO, if it's a 20-story building, being the one on the 20th floor, it's over. A lot of the CEOs these days, they want to sit with their people, they want to have lunch with their people. So do not be afraid to, start within your team, because if you're unable to have a relationship with the person that's right in front of you, what are the chances? Why should you be going 3 levels up in the organization to try and have the relationship? So yes, but I don't think there should be an order.
And now that I have this relationship, how do I nurture it? How do I maintain it? Do I call you once a month to say, hey, like a catch-up session, or like how does that happen? Because for me, I have definitely found myself in this position where I've built like a few business connections. It's just that with the one, he made it clear from the start, thank goodness, that we can meet once a month and discuss your goals and stuff like that. So that takes pressure off of me. But not everyone will right off the bat say, I'm willing to meet once a month. So in that case, how do I nurture and maintain those relationships?
You know, there are different levels and forms of relationships. So if it's something that is almost like a mentoring relationship, I think you need to set expectations both ways. I think it's very important to set expectations, to say, if you are the requester, you need to say, what would you be comfortable with, which you did, right? What would you be comfortable with meeting once a week, whatever is convenient in your diary. Obviously, you also have to make sure that in your work, because can you get time off work to meet them? So they don't commit and then you can't you don't pitch for meetings. On the flip side, not all mentorship relationships need formal sort of follow-ups, or business relationships rather. It could be like, if I think of some of my connections, it's sometimes the random call. And it's also often people that I haven't seen in 5 years. That from nowhere phone and say, listen man, I've heard about this thing. It's just saw you. Are you interested? So for me, the integrity of those relationships, becomes very important, because yes, some of the mentorship ones you need a regular cadence of meeting. But actually, some of them, with my friends, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm traveling from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Can we have a beer? And if I'm available, we have a beer and we talk about all sorts of things, social, but also work and what's happening in our industry. So I think the ability to flex across different types of interactions, the formal ones in the diary, with a cadence, and the other ones where you say, as the need arises, we need to meet and we need to have a chat. Or the other one where you say, I know you're in my network. There are different layers in your network if you think about it. Some of them are your close network, some of them are people you can call on, but they're not people maybe you will sit down and have a drink with. But if and when you need. So I think you then start to find your way in terms of what works with each type of level of relationship. Just like in your private life, you've got your close friends, your acquaintances, and people you just know.
You know who to call when for what.
Absolutely.
Okay. Lastly, so all this sounds beautiful and great and can contribute to your growth and will contribute to your growth. But I'm also very interested in knowing what can go wrong. I'm sure, like any other relationship on planet Earth, we are dealing with 2 human beings, and there could be an assumption, there could be anything can go wrong. So what are some of the things that can go wrong? And if I do get to that point where I've messed up, or I have said something that I shouldn't have, or I came off whatever, if let's just say something happens between us and that connection dwindles a little bit, how do I now recover that connection or that relationship? How do I get back on the horse with that person and be on the same page again?
Okay, so I'll start with the first part. What could go wrong? A number of things could go wrong, and I won't be able to mention them all, but I'll touch on a few. I think the first thing that could go wrong is a breach of trust. I'll just use one example. So you've got an executive that is agreed to mentor you, and you've obviously got their number, so you can set up appointments. Lo and behold, a friend of yours has a business and wants to be introduced. Without getting consent of this executive, you give away their number.
Okay. So
breach of trust is probably one of the top things that different people will tell you, that once there's a breach of trust, then you lose, the level of the relationship immediately drops either to not existent, or you become in the outer circle, if I can say that. The other thing that could go wrong in a relationship is just a relationship just fizzling out. Fizzling out in the sense that, for example, you start with a mentor and you're supposed to meet once a month. He or she cancels on you 3, 4, 5 times. It's 5 months down the line, and on your side you think, okay, listen, this is a very, very senior person. They've got a body of knowledge I need, but is the juice worth the squeeze? So you could also have relationships going wrong in the sense of there's different levels of interest in terms of the parties in that business relationship. And what could also go wrong, like you said, rightly so, is that if there's an assumption that because I'm in a business relationship with you, so therefore if there's a job offer, or if there's an increase,
I should be the first person.
I should be the first person. So and then you stop working hard like you should, like you did before that relationship, because you think the relationship will do that work for you. So again, it talks to breach of trust in a way, to say, so you must never abuse these relationships. Once a relationship gets abused, oftentimes I would say that relationships break down, either lack of interest from one party. It could even be one party moving to another city, and then or moving to another company, leaving the company, and then the relationship, depending on how strong it was, then it can disappear. So that's what could go wrong. How can you recover a relationship if things have gone wrong? I think, again, I believe in you have to be completely candid about what happened and what went wrong. You have to own your mistakes if you're the one that has made the mistakes. Once you own your mistake, people at different levels of the organization, at a human level, they tend to, not everyone will take you back in, but I think if you own your mistake and you're completely candid about what you need, and if you then come up with solutions to say this is how it's not going to happen again, I think you can find your way back into relationships. And another thing that I would say is that it's not necessary, you can replace one relationship that has failed with another, because what you want from that relationship could be, I want to learn how to my resilience. I'm not resilient. When I'm in tough situations, I'm not resilient, and this person was helping me to build that resilience. Perhaps if you can't recover the relationship, you have to, because you've now got the skill of how you build those relationships, maybe there's someone else who can give you, maybe using a different method, a totally different personality, so you don't necessarily recover all your relationships, but I think you can still get the same knowledge from different people.
All right, now we're going to move on to part B of this conversation, and part B is the lightning questions, where we'll go through them as quickly as we can. So try and answer them as quickly as you can, and then on to the next one.
Lightning is okay, as long as there's no thunder.
That's fine. Okay, the first question: what's the one thing we should keep in mind when approaching a relationship, a business connection, business relationship?
Trust.
Okay.
You need to keep in mind that there needs to be mutual trust between the two.
You need to be trustworthy. You need to maintain the trust that you've now built and just stay there.
Yes.
Okay. The second thing: what's the single most important thing with regards to these business relationships?
The single most important thing is slightly related to the first. It's integrity.
Okay.
So you must do what you promise.
Okay.
Say what you say, say what you say, do what you say, right? And never break your promises.
Okay.
For me, it's really what keeps a lot of business relationships going is the integrity of both parties.
Okay. So would you be open to mentoring? Are you currently mentoring anyone?
I am currently mentoring a number of people, and yes, I'm always, where time allows, always very open to mentoring.
Okay, next question. How do you maintain your business connections? You did touch on it from the previous questions, that you'd grab a beer with them if you're in the city, but is there anything else that you think you can mention regarding how you maintain your business connections?
I think I'll use 3 words. Maximum possible availability to them. Whether they are in town, flying from overseas or from another city, coming to see me, I try by all means to make time, even if it's just 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I think that's the single biggest decision I've made in terms of maintaining this, to say maximum possible availability.
Okay.
If you're available, give people time. Of course, it has to be people that you want to be around.
Right.
So it's not at random that everyone that gives me a call. But for those that are in my network and we have the right connection, I'm always available whenever possible.
One lesson you've learned from your business relationships?
I think I've learned that there's always help around. Funny enough, I thought it would be something very complex, but I've actually learned that there's always somebody who knows.
Okay.
Whatever problem you have, trust me, there's always somebody who knows.
And hopefully they're willing to help. Yes,
hopefully they're willing to help. So by having such a big network, I've learned that I can always reach out, and when you reach out, whether it's through your 3rd level network or your 4th level network, you will get to somebody that knows the answer to your question.
Okay, so do you prefer email or face-to-face conversations?
Face-to-face, if those are the 2 choices.
Okay, and one thing you'd like to master before the age of 60?
Cycling, funny enough. Racing. Really? Cycling, yes.
Okay, do you prefer structure or going with the flow?
Going with the flow, definitely. Structured flow, maybe.
Somewhere in between.
Yes.
The last question, one thing you're most proud of with regards to the business relationships you've built?
I'm most proud of the fact that I've stayed true to myself, I think. I think a lot of my people in my network, and I'm talking hundreds of them, hundreds of business leaders, I think they would say this in my absence. And I think for me, that's the most important thing, that where some of these people were suppliers, I always acted with integrity. Even suppliers that I've never given a cent of business, I have got good credibility with them. So for me, staying true to myself, being fair to fellow employees, to my bosses, to anyone around me, for me is the one thing that I'm most proud of in this relationship business, in the corporate world.
Oh, okay. That was the last question. That wraps up our conversation on building business relationships. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you'll come again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.